The numbers are devastating. Toyota just posted its worst quarterly loss in 15 years. 5 factories shuttered across 3 continents. $7 billion evaporated from their market cap in a single day. And it's only getting worse. It's over. The numbers don't lie. Toyota is hemorrhaging money at a rate that no company, not even the world's largest automaker, can survive. The mainstream media won't tell you the full story, but I will. For decades, Toyota has been synonymous with reliability. The indestructible Hilux, the timeless Corolla, the luxurious Lexus. But behind the carefully crafted image of Japanese precision engineering lies a company in free fall. A giant brought to its knees by catastrophic miscalculations, executive hubris, and a fundamental failure to understand where the automotive industry is heading. This isn't just another temporary setback. This isn't just another recall. This is the beginning of the end for one of the most recognizable brands in automotive history. The warning signs have been there for years. While Tesla, BYD, and even traditional rivals like Volkswagen and Hyundai poured billions into electric vehicle development, Toyota doubled down on hybrid technology and hydrogen fuel cells, a technological dead end that has cost them precious years in the EV race. Now they're paying the price, and that price might just be their existence. What's happening at Toyota isn't an isolated incident. It's not about one failed model line, one bad quarter, or one strategic misstep. It's about a systemic collapse that's been years in the making. A collapse that threatens to bring down not just Toyota, but an entire ecosystem of suppliers, dealerships, and communities that depend on the Japanese giant. The mainstream automotive press won't tell you this story. They can't. Toyota spends billions on advertising each year. The automotive media depends on access to new models, press events, and the goodwill of manufacturers. They can't afford to bite the hand that feeds them. But I'm not dependent on Toyota's advertising dollars or press access. I can tell you what they won't. This collapse didn't happen overnight. It's been building for years, hidden beneath the surface of record sales and profits. Toyota executives knew what was coming. They saw the warning signs, but instead of confronting reality, they chose denial. They chose to cling to outdated technologies while the world moved on without them. The truth is, Toyota has been living on borrowed time. Their reputation for quality and reliability, built over decades, has masked fundamental weaknesses in their business model. Now those weaknesses are exposed for all to see. And the picture isn't pretty. What we're witnessing isn't just the decline of an automaker. It's the collapse of an entire philosophy of manufacturing. The Toyota production system, once studied and emulated by companies around the world, has failed to adapt to the realities of electric vehicle production. The very system that made Toyota great is now the anchor dragging it to the bottom. Think I'm exaggerating? Let's look at the shocking data that Toyota executives don't want you to see. The numbers are staggering. Toyota's stock has plummeted 37% in the past 6 months alone. That's not a correction. That's not a temporary setback. That's a vote of no confidence from the market. To put it in perspective, that's a loss of over $70 billion in market capitalization. Gone. Evaporated. That's more than the entire value of Ford Motor Company. Vanished in less than half a year, but the stock price is just the beginning. Toyota's global market share has declined for 5 consecutive quarters. In the all-important Chinese market, the world's largest automotive market, Toyota's sales have collapsed by 41% year over year. Let me say that again, 41% decline in China. That's not a dip, that's a free fall. Toyota's much-hyped BZ4X electric SUV, their first dedicated EV platform, sold just 8,400 units worldwide in its first year. For comparison, Tesla sold more Model Ys in a single week. The BZ4X launch was so disastrous that Toyota had to recall every single vehicle due to wheels that could literally fall off during driving. You can't make this up. Remember when Toyota announced they were investing $35 billion in EV development? That sounds impressive until you realize that Volkswagen committed $86 billion. Tesla, over $90 billion. Even Ford, a company one-third Toyota's size, pledged $50 billion. Toyota is bringing a knife to a gunfight. Toyota's EV market share is a pathetic 0.2% globally, not 2%, not even 1%, 0.2%. For the world's largest automaker, that's not just disappointing. It's catastrophic. Their production costs have skyrocketed 23% in the past year alone, while their profit margins have shrunk to just 4.8%, the lowest in 2 decades. For every dollar Toyota makes in revenue, they're keeping less than 5 cents in profit. That's unsustainable by any measure. Toyota has issued recalls affecting over 3.5 million vehicles in the past 18 months. The costs of these recalls, over $2.4 billion and counting. That's not just a quality control issue, that's a fundamental breakdown in Toyota's vaunted production system. And here's the most shocking statistic of all. Toyota's internal projections, leaked by a whistleblower within the company, show that they expect to lose market share in every major global market for the next 5 years. Every single market. These aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. These are warning sirens blaring at maximum volume. These are flashing red lights that can't be ignored. These are the vital signs of a company in critical condition. How did Toyota, once the gold standard of automotive manufacturing, fall so far, so fast? The answer lies in a perfect storm of mismanagement, technological hubris, and cultural resistance to change. First and foremost is Toyota's catastrophic miscalculation on electric vehicles. While the rest of the industry was racing toward an all-electric future, Toyota's leadership doubled down on hybrid technology, a transitional technology that's rapidly becoming obsolete. They bet billions on hydrogen fuel cells, a technology that has failed to gain traction despite decades of development. Former CEO Akio Toyoda famously dismissed EVs as overhyped, calling them a fashion trend as recently as 2021. That's like dismissing the internet as a fad in 1998. This wasn't just a minor tactical error, this was a strategic blunder of historic proportions. While competitors were building dedicated EV platforms from the ground up, Toyota was trying to adapt their existing internal combustion platforms, a compromise approach that resulted in mediocre products that satisfied neither EV enthusiasts nor traditional Toyota customers. Consider the BZ4X, Toyota's first dedicated EV. After years of development and billions in investment, what did Toyota deliver? An electric SUV with less range, slower charging, and worse performance than competitors that had been on the market for years, and at a higher price point. Imagine spending $45,000 on a brand new electric SUV only to discover it takes nearly an hour to charge from 10% to 80%, twice as long as a Tesla Model Y or a Hyundai Ioniq 5. That's not just disappointing. That's unacceptable. But the problems go deeper than just EV strategy. Toyota's legendary quality control, once the envy of the industry, has collapsed. In 2023 alone, Toyota issued more recalls than any other automaker. The BZ4X recall where wheels could detach during driving. The RAV4 recall for engines that could suddenly stall. The Tundra recall for frames that could crack. These aren't minor issues, these are fundamental safety concerns that would have been unthinkable at Toyota just a decade ago. And then there's the leadership crisis. When Akio Toyoda stepped down as CEO in early 2023, it wasn't a planned succession. It was a forced exit, the result of mounting pressure from shareholders who had lost confidence in his ability to navigate the EV transition. His replacement, Koji Sato, inherited a company already in crisis, but instead of charting a bold new direction, Sato has largely continued the same failed strategies that got Toyota into this mess. The company's organizational structure has become sclerotic and resistant to change. Decision-making is painfully slow. Product development cycles are too long. While Tesla can push software updates overnight, Toyota takes months to implement even minor changes. While Chinese EV makers are bringing new models to market in 18 months, Toyota still operates on a 5-year development cycle. The root of the problem is cultural. Toyota's corporate culture, once a source of strength, has become its greatest weakness. The famous Toyota Way emphasized incremental improvement and consensus building. That worked in the analog era of automotive manufacturing. It's failing catastrophically in the digital era, where speed and agility are paramount. Think about it this way. Toyota became great by making small, continuous improvements to internal combustion engines over decades. But the EV revolution isn't about incremental change, it's about radical transformation. And Toyota's culture is fundamentally incompatible with radical transformation. Behind the cold statistics and corporate strategies are real human beings whose lives are being devastated by Toyota's collapse. In Georgetown, Kentucky, where Toyota operates its largest North American plant, thousands of workers face an uncertain future. Production lines have slowed. Overtime has been cut. Rumors of layoffs swirl through the community. "We used to work 6 days a week, sometimes 7 during peak demand," says Michael Reynolds, a 22-year veteran of the Georgetown plant. "Now we're lucky if we get 5 days. People are scared. They've got mortgages, kids in college, medical bills." Toyota was supposed to be the secure job, the job you could count on. Not anymore. The impact extends far beyond Toyota's direct employees. For every worker at a Toyota plant, there are an estimated 7 jobs in the surrounding community that depend on that plant, from parts suppliers to restaurants, hotels, and retail stores. In Princeton, Indiana, where Toyota manufactures the Highlander SUV, production cuts have already led to layoffs at local suppliers. Midwest Molding, which makes plastic components for Toyota vehicles, has laid off 30% of its workforce. "They told us it was temporary," says Jennifer Martinez, who lost her job after 8 years with the company. "But they said the same thing in 2008, and those jobs never came back." Toyota dealerships, once cash cows for their owners, are feeling the pain too. "Our service department is still busy, but new car sales have fallen off a cliff," admits Robert Chin, who owns 3 Toyota dealerships in the San Francisco Bay Area. "The customers coming through the door want EVs with the latest technology. We don't have those to offer. They walk in asking about Toyota, they walk out talking about Tesla or Hyundai." For customers, the collapse in quality has led to frustration and financial hardship. Take Sarah Johnson, a nurse in Dallas who bought a 2023 Toyota RAV4 Hybrid. "It's been in the shop 5 times in 10 months, she says. The hybrid system failed twice. The infotainment system crashed. The transmission has a shudder that they can't fix. I paid $38,000 for this car, and it's been nothing but problems." Sarah's not alone. Toyota owners across the country report longer wait times for repairs, parts shortages, and increasingly frustrated dealership staff. The company that once topped customer satisfaction surveys now ranks below industry average, according to the latest J.D. Power data. But perhaps the most poignant stories come from Japan itself, where Toyota is more than just a company. It's a national institution, a source of pride, and the economic backbone of entire regions. In Toyota City, yes, the city is named after the company, 60% of the local economy depends directly or indirectly on Toyota. Now, businesses are closing. Property values are falling. Young people are leaving for opportunities elsewhere. A city that was once a symbol of Japan's economic miracle is becoming a symbol of its decline. My father worked for Toyota. My grandfather worked for Toyota. I thought my children would work for Toyota, says Hiroshi Tanaka, a third-generation Toyota employee. Now I tell my son to study computer science or artificial intelligence. The future is not here anymore. Toyota's collapse isn't happening in isolation. It's sending shockwaves through the global automotive industry and beyond, with implications that extend from Wall Street to Washington, from Tokyo to Beijing. The first domino to fall has been Toyota's vast network of suppliers. Companies like Denso, Aisin, and Toyota Boshoku, members of the traditional Toyota Keiretsu business group, have seen their stock prices plummet in tandem with Toyota's. Denso, the world's second-largest automotive supplier, has lost 29% of its value this year alone. These suppliers, which built their entire business models around Toyota's just-in-time production system, now face an existential crisis of their own. The banking sector is getting nervous. Toyota's debt has been downgraded by both Moody's and S&P, making it more expensive for the company to borrow money at precisely the moment when it needs capital the most. Japanese banks, which have trillions of yen in exposure to Toyota and its suppliers, are quietly preparing for the worst. The Bank of Japan has reportedly conducted stress tests to assess the impact of a hypothetical Toyota bankruptcy on the Japanese financial system. The results of those tests remain classified, but the mere fact that they were conducted speaks volumes. The geopolitical implications are equally significant. Toyota's struggle has become emblematic of Japan's broader economic challenges and its declining influence in global manufacturing. As Toyota loses ground to Chinese EV makers like BYD, Geely, and NIO, Japan's position in the automotive industry, a cornerstone of its post-war economic miracle, is under threat. For the United States, where Toyota employs over 36,000 people directly and supports hundreds of thousands of additional jobs, the company's decline represents a potential economic and political crisis. States like Kentucky, Texas, and Indiana, where Toyota has major manufacturing facilities, face the prospect of massive job losses and economic dislocation. In an era of intense political polarization, the last thing these states need is an economic shock of this magnitude. The impact on the global transition to electric vehicles is more nuanced. On one hand, Toyota's failure to develop competitive EVs means fewer options for consumers and potentially slower adoption rates. On the other hand, Toyota's stumbles have created opportunities for more nimble competitors to gain market share and accelerate the transition. Perhaps most concerning is the effect on global supply chains already strained by geopolitical tensions and the lingering effects of the pandemic. Toyota pioneered the just-in-time manufacturing system that now underpins much of global manufacturing. As that system breaks down at its source, the ripple effects will be felt far beyond the automotive industry. And then there's the environmental impact. Toyota's reluctance to embrace fully electric vehicles has delayed the reduction of carbon emissions from one of the world's largest vehicle fleets. The company that once led the way with the Prius, the world's first mass-market hybrid, is now an obstacle to automotive decarbonization. In the words of one industry analyst, Toyota isn't just failing as a company, it's failing the planet. Toyota's unfolding collapse isn't without precedent. The automotive landscape is littered with the wreckage of once mighty companies that failed to adapt to changing technologies and consumer preferences. Remember Nokia? In 2007, they dominated the global mobile phone market with a 49.4% share. 6 years later, their market share had collapsed to 3%. And they sold their mobile phone business to Microsoft for a fraction of its former value. Nokia's fatal mistake, dismissing the iPhone as a niche product that wouldn't appeal to their core customers. Sound familiar, but we don't need to look outside the automotive industry for parallels. General Motors, once the world's largest corporation of any kind, filed for bankruptcy in 2009 after decades of declining market share and mounting losses. Like Toyota today, GM was slow to respond to changing consumer preferences, stuck with outdated vehicle platforms too long, and allowed quality to slip, while Japanese competitors, ironically led by Toyota, ate their lunch. Closer to home for Toyota is the cautionary tale of Mitsubishi Motors. Once one of Japan's automotive powerhouses, Mitsubishi suffered a catastrophic collapse in the early 2000s following quality scandals and strategic missteps. Today, Mitsubishi is a shadow of its former self, relegated to a junior partner in the Renault-Nissan alliance. But perhaps the most apt comparison is Kodak. Like Toyota, Kodak was an iconic brand built on a reputation for quality and reliability. Like Toyota, Kodak had a dominant market position that seemed unassailable. And like Toyota, Kodak saw the technological revolution that would upend their industry coming from miles away. Kodak actually invented the digital camera in 1975, but failed to embrace it because it threatened their existing business model. The result? Kodak filed for bankruptcy in 2012, having lost 99% of its market value. A company that once employed over 145,000 people now employs fewer than 5,000. What makes these historical parallels particularly troubling for Toyota is that the company has all the resources it needs to avoid these fates. Toyota has the engineering talent. It has the manufacturing expertise. It has the capital. What it lacks is the vision and the corporate courage to make a clean break with the past. History teaches us that once a corporate decline of this magnitude begins, it's extraordinarily difficult to reverse. Of the companies that appeared on the first Fortune 500 list in 1955, only 53 remain today. The rest have been acquired, merged, or simply ceased to exist. Will Toyota join that list of corporate dinosaurs? History suggests the odds are against them. While Toyota's collapse accelerates, the company's leadership is engaged in a massive campaign of denial and misdirection. Their public statements bear little resemblance to the reality on the ground. At the most recent shareholder meeting, CEO Koji Sato declared that Toyota was well-positioned for the EV transition and that the company's multi-pathway approach to electrification was resonating with customers. The reality? Toyota's dedicated EV models are selling at a fraction of projections, and their market share in the fastest-growing segment of the automotive market is essentially zero. Toyota's latest annual report claims that the company is investing aggressively in battery technology. What they don't mention is that this investment comes years after competitors and that Toyota's solid-state battery program, once touted as their secret weapon, has faced repeated delays and technical setbacks. Originally promised for 2025, Toyota executives now privately acknowledge that mass production of solid-state batteries won't happen until 2028 at the earliest, by which time the EV market will have moved on. The company continues to promote its hybrid leadership in marketing materials and investor presentations. But this is like Blockbuster touting its dominance in DVD rentals while Netflix was building the streaming future. Hybrid technology is a transitional technology with a limited shelf life. It's not the future, it's the past pretending to be the future. Perhaps most egregious is Toyota's spin on their quality problems. In public, the company attributes recent recalls to an abundance of caution and heightened attention to customer safety. Internal documents tell a different story. A leaked memo from Toyota's Quality Control Department, dated March 2023, warns of systemic failures in our testing protocols and unacceptable defect rates in components sourced from newer suppliers. Suppliers chosen primarily for cost savings rather than quality. Toyota's Investor Relations Department continues to highlight the company's strong balance sheet and industry-leading profitability. They conveniently omit the rapid deterioration in both metrics over the past 2 years, or the fact that Toyota's profit margins now lag behind Hyundai, Tesla, and even Ford's truck division. And then there's the greenwashing. Toyota's advertising trumpets its commitment to carbon neutrality and environmental leadership. Meanwhile, Toyota executives continue to lobby against stricter emission standards in the United States, Europe, and Japan. They were the only major automaker to support the Trump administration's effort to roll back fuel economy standards in the U.S. The disconnect between Toyota's public persona and its private reality has created what organizational psychologists call a strategic schizophrenia, a company saying one thing while doing another. This cognitive dissonance has paralyzed Toyota's middle management, who receive contradictory signals from leadership and are unable to execute a coherent strategy. As one former Toyota executive told me on the condition of anonymity, it's like watching a slow-motion train wreck from the inside. Everyone can see what's happening, but no one has the authority to pull the emergency brake. As Toyota's crisis deepens, 3 possible futures emerge. None of them resemble the Toyota we've known for the past half-century. Scenario 1. The long decline. In this future, Toyota muddles through for years or even decades, gradually losing market share and relevance but avoiding outright collapse. Think of IBM in the 1990s or General Electric in the 2010s. Toyota continues to produce vehicles, but they're no longer at the forefront of technology or design. The company becomes increasingly reliant on its financial services division for profits as manufacturing margins disappear. Toyota becomes a cautionary tale, a once great company that failed to adapt. Scenario 2. The radical reinvention. Facing existential threat, Toyota's board takes dramatic action. They replace the current leadership with outsiders from the tech industry. They abandon the multi-pathway approach and go all in on EVs. They slash development times, embrace software-defined vehicles, and fundamentally restructure their operations. They sell or close underperforming divisions and focus resources on markets where they can win. This would be Toyota's equivalent of Microsoft's reinvention under Satya Nadella. Painful, disruptive, but potentially transformative. Scenario 3. The acquisition or breakup. As Toyota's value continues to decline, it becomes an acquisition target. Perhaps a Chinese automaker like BYD or Geely sees an opportunity to acquire Toyota's manufacturing expertise and global dealer network. Or perhaps a private equity firm decides that Toyota is worth more in pieces than as a whole and engineers a breakup of the company. Lexus could be spun off as a standalone luxury brand. Regional operations could be sold to local competitors. The Toyota brand could live on, but under very different ownership. Of these scenarios, the first is most likely simply because of organizational inertia and Toyota's deep cash reserves. But it's also the most tragic, a once great company slowly fading into irrelevance, rather than burning out in a blaze of glory or reinventing itself for a new era. Whichever path Toyota follows, one thing is certain. The company we knew is gone forever. The Toyota that revolutionized manufacturing, that built its reputation on quality and reliability, that changed the way the world thought about cars. That Toyota no longer exists. What remains is a company caught between its past and a future it failed to prepare for. As we've seen throughout this investigation, Toyota's collapse isn't just possible. It's already underway. The numbers don't lie. The trends are clear. The historical parallels are ominous. For decades, Toyota was the gold standard in automotive manufacturing. The company that wrote the book on quality and efficiency. The company that other companies studied and emulated. Now, Toyota has become a case study in corporate complacency and strategic failure. The question isn't whether Toyota will survive in some form. With its massive cash reserves and global footprint, the company will likely stagger on for years to come. The question is whether Toyota will ever again be a leader rather than a follower, an innovator rather than an imitator. For Toyota employees, shareholders, and customers, the coming years will be painful. Jobs will be lost. Investments will evaporate. The reliable vehicles that millions of people depend on will become increasingly scarce as Toyota's manufacturing capacity contracts. But the implications extend far beyond Toyota itself. The company's collapse signals the end of an era in manufacturing, an era defined by the principles of the Toyota production system. It marks the definitive shift from mechanical engineering to software engineering as the core competency of successful automakers. And it demonstrates that even the mightiest companies can fall when they fail to adapt to technological disruption. Would you still buy a car from a company in free fall? Would you invest your savings in a business that's being outmaneuvered by competitors on every front? How much longer can Toyota burn through billions before the lights go out for good? The clock is ticking. The market is unforgiving. And Toyota, the company that once seemed invincible, is running out of road.